In a quiet town, two little girls set out on a sunny day, riding their bikes to play in the park. But what should have been a carefree afternoon turned into a nightmare. The next day, their bodies were found in the woods, leaving the community in shock and disbelief. Laura Hobbs, just 8 years old, and her friend Krystal Tobias, 9, were innocent children whose lives were cut tragically short. Their friendship was a bright spot in their small town, but that light was extinguished in an unimaginable act of violence. As the search for answers began, suspicion fell on the most unlikely person, a father who had just lost his daughter. This is the story of a horrific crime that not only took the lives of two young girls, but also shattered the lives of those left behind. Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. If you enjoy our content and want to dive deeper into the world of cold cases and unsolved mysteries, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support inspires us to uncover more intriguing stories and insights into these baffling cases. And don't forget to leave your comments below. We love hearing your thoughts and theories, and your engagement helps us build a community of fellow mystery enthusiasts. So, let's get started. Laura Hobbs was born on September 25, 1996, in Texas. After her parents separated, her mother moved with Laura and her 3 brothers to Zion, Illinois. This small town quickly became a special place for Laura. She loved the friendly atmosphere and the close-knit community that made everyone feel like family. Living just steps away from her maternal grandparents, Arthur and Emily Hollabaugh, Laura often spent time with them. They were a big part of her life, providing love and support. Laura enjoyed visiting the nearby Lake Michigan, where she created happy memories with her family. At school, Laura made a close friend in Krystal Tobias. The two girls were inseparable, sharing laughter and adventures. They often rode their bikes together, explored the neighborhood, and played in the park. Their friendship was a source of joy for both girls, and they were known for their bright smiles and playful spirits. Zion was not just a place to live for Laura. It was a community where she felt safe and loved. The town's charm and the warmth of its residents made it a perfect backdrop for her childhood. Little did anyone know that this peaceful town would soon be shaken by tragedy. On Mother's Day, May 8, 2005, the Hobbs family gathered to celebrate the special occasion at Lake Michigan. It was a beautiful day filled with laughter and joy. Laura, her brothers, and their parents enjoyed flying kites and spending quality time together by the water. The atmosphere was light and happy, a perfect day for a family outing. After the celebration, Laura and her friend Krystal Tobias decided to ride their bikes to a nearby park. The park was just a short distance from their homes, and the girls often played there. They were excited to continue their day of fun, not knowing that this would be the last time they would be seen alive. The decision to ride their bikes seemed innocent and typical for two young girls in a safe neighborhood, where parents felt comfortable letting their children explore. As they pedaled away, the sun shone brightly, and the world felt full of possibilities. But as the hours passed and the girls didn't return, a sense of worry began to creep into the hearts of their families. What started as a joyful day would soon turn into a heartbreaking search for two missing girls. As the sun began to set on that fateful day, Laura's family started to worry. When the girls didn't return home after a few hours, their parents began to search the neighborhood. They called out for Laura and Krystal, hoping to hear their laughter in response. But as time passed, the worry turned into fear. By nightfall, the families realized something was very wrong. They gathered friends and neighbors to help search for the girls. Groups of people combed through the nearby streets, parks, and wooded areas, calling their names and looking for any sign of them. The community came together, united by a growing sense of urgency and concern. As the night wore on without any leads, the parents decided to contact the police. Officers arrived at the scene and began to take reports. They quickly organized a more formal search, bringing in additional resources to help find the missing girls. The police set up a command center and started to gather information from anyone who might have seen Laura and Krystal. With each passing hour, the anxiety in the community grew. Friends and family members held on to hope, but the reality of the situation began to sink in. The search for Laura Hobbs and Krystal Tobias was just beginning, and the stakes were rising as the night deepened. The small town of Zion, once filled with laughter and joy, was now gripped by fear and uncertainty as everyone hoped for a safe return. The search for Laura Hobbs and Krystal Tobias took a tragic turn on the morning of May 9th, 2005. It was Laura's father, Jerry Hobbs, who made the heartbreaking discovery. As he walked through the park near their homes, he stumbled upon the bodies of the two girls, lying side by side in a secluded area. The sight was unimaginable and instantly filled him with horror. The scene was chaotic as Jerry called for help, his voice filled with panic and despair. The park, once a place of joy for the girls, had become the site of a nightmare. Emergency responders arrived quickly, but the shock of the discovery rippled through the community. Friends and family, who had been searching for the girls, were now faced with the grim reality that their worst fears had come true. Forensic investigators later revealed the brutal details surrounding the girls' deaths. Both Laura and Krystal had been stabbed multiple times, and the violence of the crime left a deep scar on the community. The brutality of the act was hard to comprehend, and it raised many questions about how something so horrific could happen in their small town. The innocence of childhood was shattered, and the loss of two young lives sent shockwaves through Zion, leaving everyone grappling with grief and disbelief. The investigation into the murders would soon reveal more about the circumstances surrounding that tragic day. But for now, the focus was on mourning the loss of Laura and Krystal, two little girls whose lives were taken far too soon. After the tragic discovery of Laura and Krystal's bodies, the police quickly turned their attention to Jerry Hobbs, Laura's father. His past criminal history, which included several charges related to domestic violence and assault, made him a prime suspect in the eyes of law enforcement. This background raised immediate concerns among investigators, leading them to focus on him rather than exploring other possibilities. The psychological impact on Jerry was immense. Just days after losing his daughter, he found himself at the center of a murder investigation. The community, once supportive, began to view him with suspicion. Many people struggled to reconcile the image of a grieving father with the accusations against him. As the news spread, whispers and rumors circulated, further isolating Jerry during an already devastating time. The interrogation process was intense and lengthy. Jerry was subjected to a grueling 20-hour questioning session, during which he was sleep-deprived and under extreme emotional distress. This environment led him to confess to the murders, despite the confession being vague and inconsistent. He later described feeling broken by the pressure of the interrogation, stating, "Mama, they broke me," when he saw his mother after being arrested. This confession, obtained under duress, would later become a focal point in the case, raising questions about the reliability of statements made in such high-pressure situations. The community's reaction was mixed. While some believed in his guilt, others began to doubt the police's handling of the investigation as more details emerged about the confession and the lack of physical evidence linking him to the crime. The initial focus on Jerry Hobbs not only affected him personally, but also left a lasting impact on the community, which struggled to cope with the unfolding tragedy and the implications of the investigation. Jerry Hobbs' confession was shocking and disturbing. He claimed that after finding Laura and Krystal in the woods, he had a violent confrontation with them. According to his statement, he became enraged when he discovered the girls, leading to a brutal attack where he claimed to have stabbed both girls multiple times. The details of his confession were vague and inconsistent, raising doubts about its truthfulness. The reaction from Jerry's family was one of disbelief and heartbreak. His mother, Joan Hobbs, struggled to accept that her son could be accused of such a horrific crime. Many in the community shared this disbelief, as they had known Jerry as a father who was devastated by the loss of his daughter. The idea that he could be responsible for her death was too much for many to bear. As the case progressed, the legal implications became serious. Prosecutors pushed for the death penalty, arguing that the nature of the crime warranted the harshest punishment. This decision sparked heated debates within the community. Some residents felt that the death penalty was justified given the brutality of the murders, while others believed that Jerry was being unfairly targeted due to his confession and past history. The fallout from Jerry's confession not only affected his family, but also divided the community. As people grappled with the possibility of a father being accused of killing his own daughter, the search for justice became increasingly complicated. The case raised important questions about the reliability of confessions obtained under pressure and the broader implications for the legal system. The tragedy of Laura and Krystal's deaths continued to haunt the town, as the community struggled to find answers and come to terms with the events that had unfolded. As time passed, Jerry Hobbs began to question the validity of his confession. He retracted his statement, claiming that it had been coerced by the police during the intense interrogation. Jerry argued that the pressure he faced, combined with sleep deprivation and emotional turmoil, led him to say things he did not mean. He insisted that he was innocent and that the confession was not a true reflection of what happened that day. The legal battles that followed were intense. Jerry's defense team pointed out the lack of physical evidence linking him to the crime. Despite the gruesome nature of the murders, no blood, DNA, or any other forensic evidence tied him to the scene. This absence of evidence raised serious doubts about the prosecution's case against him. Jerry's lawyer, Kathleen Zellner, played a crucial role in the fight for justice. She and her team worked tirelessly to uncover new evidence that could prove Jerry's innocence. They submitted DNA evidence from the crime scene to independent labs, which revealed the presence of male DNA that did not match Jerry's. This finding was a significant breakthrough, suggesting that someone else was responsible for the murders. Zellner's efforts highlighted the flaws in the initial investigation and the dangers of relying on confessions obtained under duress. As the legal battles continued, the focus shifted from Jerry's guilt to the possibility of his innocence, igniting hope for a resolution that could finally bring justice for Laura and Krystal. The fight for justice was not just about Jerry's freedom. It was also about seeking the truth behind the tragic deaths of two young girls and ensuring that the real perpetrator was held accountable. Years after the tragic murders of Laura Hobbs and Krystal Tobias, a significant breakthrough occurred in the case. DNA evidence emerged that linked the crime to Jorge Avila-Torrez, a man with a troubling history. This new evidence shifted the focus away from Jerry Hobbs and reignited the investigation into the real perpetrator. Jorge Avila-Torrez had a military background, having served as a corporal in the U.S. Marine Corps. At the time of the murders, he was stationed at Joint Base Myer-Henderson Hall in Virginia. His military training and discipline were in stark contrast to the violent crimes he would later commit. Before being linked to the murders of Laura and Krystal, Avila-Torrez had already been convicted of several serious crimes. In 2010, he was arrested for the abduction and assault of multiple women in Virginia, one of whom he raped and attempted to kill. He was sentenced to 5 life sentences for these crimes, which highlighted his dangerous nature. The moment the DNA match was found, it was a turning point in the case. Investigators were able to connect Avila-Torrez's DNA to the evidence collected from the crime scene, confirming that he was the true killer of the 2 young girls. This revelation not only exonerated Jerry Hobbs, but also brought a sense of relief to the community, which had been haunted by the unsolved murders for years. The focus now shifted to bringing Avila-Torrez to justice for his horrific actions. The discovery of the DNA evidence was a crucial step in the long journey toward justice for Laura and Krystal, proving that the truth could eventually come to light, even after years of uncertainty. Jorge Avila-Torrez was arrested in 2010 after a series of violent crimes in Virginia, where he was convicted of murdering a Navy sailor and assaulting multiple women. His DNA was entered into a national database following his arrest, which later matched the DNA found on Laura Hobbs' body, linking him directly to the murders of Laura and Krystal. Avila-Torrez had a history of violence that included stalking, attempted abduction, and rape. He was known for his brutal attacks on women, which made him a dangerous individual. At the time of the girls' murders, he was just 16 years old and had connections to the community, as he was a friend of Krystal's half-brother. When the news of Avila-Torrez's arrest broke, the community reacted with a mix of relief and anger. Many felt a sense of justice as the true killer was finally identified. But there was also deep sorrow for the years lost and the wrongful accusations against Jerry Hobbs. The revelation that a local boy had been involved in such a horrific crime shocked many residents, who had thought their town was safe. The community began to grapple with the reality of the violence that had occurred in their midst, and discussions about safety and justice became more prominent. The arrest of Jorge Avila-Torrez marked a significant turning point in the case, as it not only exonerated Jerry Hobbs, but also brought renewed attention to the need for thorough investigations in cases of violence against children. The trial of Jerry Hobbs was a deeply emotional experience for him and his family. After spending 5 years in jail awaiting trial for the murders of his daughter Laura and her friend Krystal, the pressure was immense. The courtroom was filled with tension as Jerry faced accusations that he had killed his own daughter. The emotional toll on him was heavy, as he had already endured the loss of Laura and the trauma of being wrongfully accused. Public perception of the case was complicated. Many in the community initially believed in Jerry's guilt, influenced by the media coverage that often portrayed him as a suspect. The intense scrutiny from the press added to the stress of the trial, as headlines focused on his past and the shocking nature of the crimes. However, as new evidence emerged, including the DNA match to Jorge Avila-Torrez, public opinion began to shift. People started to question the fairness of the investigation and the validity of Jerry's confession. Eventually, Jerry Hobbs was exonerated in 2010 when the DNA evidence conclusively linked the murders to Avila-Torrez. This moment brought a wave of relief, but it was also bittersweet, as Jerry had lost so much during his wrongful imprisonment. Following his exoneration, he received a settlement of $7.5 million from various municipalities involved in his arrest, acknowledging the brutality of the way he was treated during the investigation. However, none of the municipalities admitted wrongdoing, leaving a lingering sense of injustice despite the financial compensation. The trial and its aftermath highlighted the flaws in the justice system and the devastating impact of wrongful accusations on innocent lives. Jerry's story became a powerful reminder of the importance of thorough investigations and the need for justice for victims and their families. The trial of Jorge Avila-Torrez for the murders of Laura Hobbs and Krystal Tobias marked a significant moment in the long and painful journey for justice. After years of waiting, the families of the victims finally had the opportunity to confront the man accused of taking their daughters' lives. During the trial, the prosecution presented compelling evidence against Avila-Torrez. The most critical evidence was the DNA found on Laura Hobbs' body, which matched Avila-Torrez' DNA. This evidence was pivotal in linking him directly to the crime. The prosecution also called witnesses who could testify about Avila-Torrez's behavior and his connections to the girls, including his friendship with Krystal's half-brother. Prosecutors highlighted statements made by Avila-Torrez to fellow inmates, where he allegedly confessed to the murders, further solidifying the case against him. The prosecution's strategy focused on painting a clear picture of Avila-Torrez as a dangerous individual with a history of violence. They aimed to show the jury not only the physical evidence, but also the emotional weight of the crime. By emphasizing the brutality of the murders and the impact on the families, they sought to evoke a strong emotional response from the jury. The trial of Jorge Avila-Torrez was a crucial step in the pursuit of justice for Laura and Krystal, bringing to light the horrific nature of the crime and the lasting effects it had on those left behind. Jorge Avila-Torrez was sentenced to death for the murders of Laura Hobbs and Krystal Tobias. The court found that his actions were particularly heinous, and the death penalty was deemed appropriate given the brutality of the crimes. In addition to the death sentence, he received multiple life sentences for other violent crimes he committed, ensuring that he would spend the rest of his life in prison without the possibility of parole. The sentencing of Jorge Avila-Torrez not only brought justice for Laura and Krystal, but also served as a catalyst for change within the justice system. The lessons learned from this tragic case continue to influence law enforcement practices today, aiming to prevent future injustices and ensure that victims receive the justice they deserve. Thank you for joining us as we explored the tragic case of Jorge Avila-Torrez. This story highlights the importance of justice and the impact of wrongful convictions. We want to hear from you. Please share your thoughts about the case in the comments below. If you found this video informative, consider giving it a like and subscribing to our channel. Your support helps us raise awareness about wrongful convictions and the need for justice in our legal system. Sharing this video with your friends and family can also help spread the word about these important issues. Together, we can make a difference. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to your comments.